Welcome to the Calder Farmstead.
Now the Ice Hawks back out to center in transition. Carlson with Quenneville 2-on-1. Right with Carlson, Quenneville scores!
Here's a chance for Carrick. Fighting scores! Off the face-off! Up it's Eminger. Pulled back to Werenski. Has it, shoots one, bounces off a man. 5 seconds left. Werenski, another jam on the shot, turning and firing. They go! Scores! They score! Now they catch each other and they both go right over the top. Matching rights to one another. McDermott gets the helmet off of Cassie.
And now with 9 minutes gone in overtime, the Bears breaking out right side with Bear. Looks like cutting to the net. Bear will score!
And here are your hosts, Cece and Sean.
Hello and greetings from the mile-high city of Denver, Colorado.
And Piteå, Sweden.
Oh, okay. Welcome to the Calder Farmstead podcast, episode number 86 for Friday, February 25th, 2022. If you were hoping for a podcast featuring a debate on the pros and cons of no-till farming, we are not going to be much help because this is an American Hockey League podcast. My name is CC Hockley, the AHL editor of Full Press Hockey.
And I'm Sean O'Brien from Stats Track and the AHL's only league-wide analytics guy.
And as always, we thank you all for tuning in with us.
And if you're new to hearing CC and I talk about hockey, we're going to preview some of the matchups in the upcoming weekend in the American Hockey League for you. We both watch a lot of AHL games and are going to talk about what we see when we watch the film, as well as use some advanced stats to help us break that down. If that's new to you, you may want to head over to our podcast feed or YouTube channel, wherever you're listening to us from, and check out episode 0. It's a short primer on some of the stats we're going to be talking about, as well as how we view what's important on the ice. So if you're newer to some more of the advanced hockey stats terms like PDO or the point shares model, or newer hockey terms like controlled zone entries, go check that out so you better be able to pick up what we're putting down. I promise it's not that nerdy or technical. It's only 20 minutes. And let's be honest, you wasted 20 minutes reading about Tom Brady's first major acting role. You'll never get that time back. So next time, why not spend a little more time with us talking hockey?
Thankfully, not 20 minutes for me. What is it, like a buddy comedy or something like that?
Don't care. Have you seen Tom Brady talk? No, I don't want to hear him be Tom Brady for 75 plus minutes. Nope.
That's fair.
Nope.
Completely fair.
There are bricks more entertaining.
Wow. All right. I think we should get back to hockey, or at least start with hockey, rather. And we'll begin with the Atlantic Division. We have a weekend to preview here in the AHL. So we picked a weekend set, Providence and Hartford. Saturday at Hartford at 7 p.m., Sunday at Providence at 3:05 p.m., both times Eastern, and both teams play on Friday as well against different opponents. Hockey in the Atlantic Division, always an adventure for sure. The P Bruins penalty kill. That has been so solid all season, but they've turned it up a notch in February so far, killing off 18 of 20 chances against them. That is solid. Wow, 95% kill rate. What's been the secret to their penalty kill success this season, Sean? And even recently?
I mean, well, the first key to preventing power play goals against your own team is to not take penalties. They've taken 20 penalties in 7 games in February. That's 2.85 per game. Their season average is 371, which is 12th in the AHL on the season. Now, if you want to go ahead and claim shady officiating for the Bruins not getting calls or getting called, go ahead. But when you commit fewer elbows, trips, and cross-checks, you also get called less often in the grand scheme of things. Providence's PK tape isn't anything groundbreaking, though. The system the Bruins play is a hybrid 1-1-2 and a 1-3-4 check, and a pretty standard version of the check press, otherwise known as the wedge +1 in the zone. The 1-1-2, basically, your first forechecker herds the play to one side or the other, and your second one there is there to take away the middle of the ice and kind of continue forcing them. Well, that first guy takes care of the drop pass, which you see teams make a lot. They only play the 1-3 and switch to that over the 1-1-2, basically when that first forechecker doesn't get quite as good an angle, can't quite turn the play that well. They'd rather play 3 at the line than try and mix that middle pressure in. But it's usually one of those kind of varieties. The check press, if you're not familiar, basically you have your 3 penalty killers in the zone. They make a little wedge, a triangle right in the middle of the slot. So like one guy around the top of the circles, 2 defensemen right off the right off the crease area. And then you have one guy who's the rover. And basically his job is to pressure the puck carrier, and that rover role will interchange with some of the other guys in the wedge, depending on where the puck is, how the flow of play is going. But they put pressure on puck carriers when appropriate, but typically don't chase a whole lot when the puck is kind of settled around the half wall and the puck carrier isn't in a shooting position. So like if his back is to the half wall there, they're not looking to put a ton of pressure on him because all he can really do is pass. They prefer to take more of a passive approach, whereas the rest of the time they're usually on it. But the difference is definitely from their, a standard check press, pretty standard play formation. The difference for the P Bruins is definitely in their execution. More specifically in zone, their forecheck doesn't do a ton for them, but the Bruins do a good job of getting sticks in passing lanes, defending Royal Road. They don't block a ton of shots compared to other teams, but they make sure they have good position at the net front and that their goalie sees the release, has good lines of vision to the shooter. And as the old saying goes, your goaltender needs to be your best penalty killer. And Grosnick, Kaiser Soze, and Swayman have all been solid in February so far. Combined, they've stopped 199 of 214 shots for a .930 save percentage in February across all strengths. That ain't too shabby.
Not too shabby at all. Let's talk about Jack Studnicka. He hasn't had the smoothest season so far. He's been yo-yoed 3 times already this season, which, of course, as we know, and we've stated a number of times on this podcast, not a good thing to do with a prospect. And Studnicka hasn't had the output we've seen from him in the past. He's also a restricted free agent at the end of this season, and there have been a few trade target rumors with that in mind. Shawnee, what have you seen from Mr. Jack Studnicka?
To clarify, for those who aren't familiar, yo-yoing is calling a dude up to the NHL, sending him back down, calling him back up, sending him back down. Like a yo-yo, you go up, you go down. It's bad for prospects. If you're not really sure why that's so bad, listen to previous episodes. We got a lot of stuff to cover here. So from Jack Studnicka, mostly the same things I've seen from him that we've said from him the past year and a half. His game is all around good, but he lacks a standout skill in offense that screams NHL caliber. His playmaking vision is good, shooting is good, puck skills are good, hockey IQ is good, but nothing is great. Nothing says this is an NHL skill that I can leverage the rest of my game around. Defensively, he's solid, great work ethic, but again, nothing he can really leverage at the next level to end up on the score sheet more often. That plus his skating, which is around average for the AHL, meaning it's below average for the show. That's going to make it hard for him to ever really jump in and crack a lineup. I think you could make it more as a defensive-minded forward, and he's still a very good penalty killer, but that's a marginal role as it is. Add that to being yo-yoed an insane amount. He's been called up and gotten NHL games with a wide array of playing time, at least twice in his 3 AHL seasons. 1920 was his best season, mostly because Boston sent him to Providence to start the season. They gave him a quick call up to see where he's going after 20 games because he was doing really well in Providence. They sent him back after 2 games with the Bruins. That's how that development should look like. You had a good start. You had a very good stretch over a reasonable sample, 20 games. And then, we give you a look. We see what you do in the NHL for, 12 minutes or so a night. And then we, give you some advice as we send you back. Like, we're sending you back down. We were really impressed with this part of your game, but you need to work a little bit on this and you'll be right back up here. He spent the next 40 games in Providence and finished the season in the playoffs in the bubble for the Bruins. Since then, he hasn't spent more than 14 games consecutively for either Bruins team. So we have yo-yoing, inconsistent ice time, on top of the skill set that we talked about. Are we that shocked this is where we are on Jack Studnicka? Boston is basically projected to have around $5 million in cap space at the deadline, according to Cap Friendly. They have a playoff spot virtually locked up. Moving pieces at the deadline sounds pretty likely. And if I'm a Coyotes team or Kraken or anyone like that, and I think I can take a cheap flyer on Jack Studnicka as part of a package deal or whatever, I'm doing that bit of business. That's tidy business in my mind. Some qualifiers because Jack Studnicka is about to be an RFA. So I'd have like if he doesn't sign with us, we get a draft pick instead of, Jack Stanika. But if he re-signs, some other conditional things, like I'd put those conditions on him to make sure we didn't just trade for a rental for a guy that's, not an NHL player yet. But I think his future with the Bruins organization is probably nearing an end. And while maybe you can put some of that blame on him, you can definitely put some of it on the Bruins organization, I think.
So you're telling me that Arizona actually trades for players and not just their contracts after they...
I mean, they have like 6 dudes under contract for next season. Like,
right.
Somebody has to play for that team. In theory, I guess. I mean, someone also has to go see that team play, but that's a whole different problem for the Coyotes.
It's the Chargers playing in the LA Galaxy soccer stadium, but worse. Like it's exponentially worse.
Where, as much as I'd love to spend time discussing that, we've got so much to talk about here.
We really do. And it's time to shift over to the jersey that you are donning today, the Hartford Wolfpack. And the Wolfpack, they've actually struggled to put goals on the board recently, having just scored 2 goals or fewer in 4 straight games. Is that just bad puck luck, or is there something more that needs to be corrected by the coaching staff for Hartford's scoring woes as of late, Sean?
Well, on this show, we've been incredibly consistent in a lot of our analysis. A lot of things that we have said over and over, to the point where I feel like we're just beating dead horses on a regular basis. Penalty kills need to put pressure on puck carriers. Good goaltending, while important, is near random over the short term as well as year to year, hence voodoo. Bridgeport is still named the Sound Tigers. And there's one thing you can rely on there's one thing you cannot rely on to consistently score goals. Cece, what is that?
Oh, that's shots from far away from the point, hopes for tips, screens, rebounds, greasy goals. Yeah, you can't rely on those as a consistent method of goal scoring.
And guess what the Wolfpack has been doing these past few games? Shooting from distance and hoping. Spoiler, it hasn't worked out for them. We said back in episode 0, if you're looking to score more goals when you shoot, location, location, location. For the Wolfpack, most of these shots are from defensemen too, which is not surprising. Point shots don't usually come from forwards because forwards don't hang out around the point. And that's not to say defensemen should never shoot from the point or never shoot. Sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes it's a downright good idea. But the majority of these shots, though, are coming in spots where the D are just flinging pucks from the shadow of the blue line when they had time to explore other options or make a move or do literally anything else. Instead, they heaved a prayer in the general direction of the net and crossed their fingers. In the last 4 games the Wolfpack have played, their defensemen have taken 39% of the team's shots on goal. The D have scored just 2 goals, shooting 4.9% over those 4 games. If you're a Wolfpack defenseman and you're getting the puck on the blue line, you need to be doing more than just hurling a prayer on net. And that's not to say that the forwards are outside of the realm of blame here. They've been better, but this is not strictly a defenseman problem. Forwards aren't firing from the point that much, but they're also guilty of throwing pucks on net from outside the home plate area. For those unfamiliar with the outside from the home plate area and think that's strictly a baseball term, I suppose it is, but we're taking it for this. I would also recommend you watch episode 0 from us. Good primer on a lot more of the things we're talking about. Home plate is basically a home plate shape that goes from the posts on the goal up to the face-off dots, up to the top of the circles, and then across. It makes a home plate. That's where you want to be shooting pucks from. And while defensemen are shooting pucks from outside that from the point, forwards are flinging pucks from the half wall, bottom of the circle, areas that are very easy angles for goalies to cover, because by and large, they can just kind of stand there and take up the net because the angle you have to shoot on to hit net is small. And shooting from these outside spots is just not going to get the job done. This isn't the 80s anymore where, goalies were kind of bad and just flailed in the general direction of the puck and hoped it hit them. Goalies are really good. They don't let up these bad angle goals or shots from distance very often. the Wolfpack need to work in the offensive zone to shoot from better real estate. Or if they're going to shoot from that far out, they need to set up those shots better. They need to either get more effective traffic in front, layered screens, guys cutting across the goalie's field of vision as the puck is coming, or they need to set them up with cross ice passes and one-timers. That's how you can at least turn those shots from distance or shots from bad locations into something a little more realistic to go in the net. And the Wolfpack aren't doing either of those things, and that needs to change, or they're going to keep, scoring a goal a night and calling it good.
Nils Lundqvist, spelled differently and no relation to Henrik, he was sent down by the Rangers around 6 weeks ago. The model rates him in the 40th percentile as a third-pairing defenseman. What have you seen from him on the Wolfpack, and what will it take for him to go back to the bright lights of New York City and not the, I don't know what you'd call Hartford, Connecticut, but the AHL affiliate of New York?
That's fair.
Yeah.
There are many players in the model. The model evaluates every AHL player. And while I certainly don't have that level of acumen of my familiarity with players, there are players that I'll see, they're in the 40th percentile on a third pairing defenseman or a comparable number for the forwards. And I'll be like, yeah, this thing that I spent all this time programming, I disagree with the output based on the eye test.
Sure.
Small sample in the AHL, but I've been impressed with what I've seen from Nils Lundqvist so far. Smooth skater, very good vision, and good hockey IQ. He makes all of those apparent when he activates off the weak side during transition. So puck is going up the right wall. He's sprinting up the left side to make sure that there is a lane for a pass to change sides of the ice, which is a hard thing to defend and can break a lot of forechecks. That's a good thing to do as a defenseman and something that he's done repeatedly. That makes him basically become a fourth forward on breakouts to the neutral zone. And that helps him, or that helps the Wolfpack be able to string together zone exits and zone entries. Lundqvist can do that himself, string together those zone exits and zone entries into basically a one-man coast-to-coast road show. He also doesn't limit that activation in transition either. He'll come off the blue line to join the cycle. He also uses his shot, which is a weapon in its own right, to set up passes to set up passes. So he'll fake the shot and then open up space to make for a passing lane and make that pass. Or he'll fake that pass and that'll open up a good shooting lane for him. I still think he's maybe taking too many shots from distance, but he's at least doing things that help him set up other plays. So I'm a little more okay with it. There are two areas in his development I'd like to see him make progress on before I send him back to the city. Number one is puck retrievals. When he gets moving up the ice with the puck in transition, excellent. We just talked about that. But he struggles under initial pressure retrieving dump-ins and could use more poise in those scenarios, as well as work to cleanly field pucks off the back wall without having to kind of stick handle for control. And the way I've learned to kind of explain that is, should you drop your phone, it's a difference between, you grabbing it in midair, one hand just caught, and kind of bobbling a little bit before you catch it. Now, your phone is fine in both instances. You ended up catching it. But in professional hockey, if you bobble the puck a little bit, that's bad as opposed to just got it right away. That's something he needs to work on just a little bit. There are a couple of instances fielding those pucks in that kind of loose puck off the back wall scenario that you don't have time and space to be stick handling it to get it under control. You have to grab it right away and go. The second is enclosing in the defensive zone. He's really good at maintaining tight gaps and pushing play to the outside, but he's not good at finishing those plays. He seems to be content just kind of pushing opponents to the boards and not stripping them of the puck, muscling them off it. That's not ideal. I've seen him do it a few times in just a handful of games I've seen his tape in Hartford, and that's something that needs to be changed. He needs to be not just pushing guys to the wall, but once they're there, finishing plays and killing plays there instead of kind of letting the guy continue around the wall and stuff. Even though he's put them in non-threatening areas, the play needs to die there, and he's not killing it.
All righty. Well, with both the teams and some individual highlights from both Providence and Hartford, it's time to make our picks. And actually, no, it's not time to make our picks. It's time for the keys of the weekend. Putting the cart before the horse, as it were. Sorry about that.
No worries. All right, keys to the weekend for Hartford. Either get busy staying out of the box or get busy fixing that penalty kill. The last 4 games against Providence, the Wolfpack penalty kill is 13 for 18, which is a 72.2% kill rate. That's not good enough. That's not even good.
Nope.
Get busy staying out of the box or get busy figuring out how to make that work. But what you're doing right now against Providence is not making it happen. Second key to the weekend for Hartford, and a little tongue-in-cheek here, but I'm going to run with it. Where the Reds? Last win against Providence at home this season was January 28th. They wore the red jerseys. These are big games against Providence in the standings that carry a lot of weight for points percentage. As this isn't just a 4-point game swing. This is you won 2 points out of 2 points, or you lost, or you got 0 points out of 2 points. This is going to make a big swing, and these standings in the top of the Atlantic are tight. Don't get cute. Wear the Reds. On the Providence side of things, you have to set the pace right away. The biggest difference, besides the Reds, that I've seen from that January 28th loss and the Bruins win over the Wolfpack was the opening minutes. Hartford won the opening 10 minutes of the first in that game. They set the pace. They established the tempo right out of the gate. In general, throughout that game, they started periods hot, and they kept that momentum going well beyond the first 10 minutes of the period. That's hard to undo if you're not that team that gets to that hot start. If Providence wants to win this series, in the games that Providence has won in this series, the Bruins did that. They won the opening minutes of a period. They set the pace. They established their game. For Providence, that's what you need to get back to. Setting the pace, making sure you are that team that is winning the opening minutes of periods.
Okay. Now it's time for our picks. All right. Well, I initially put down a P Bruins sweep, but gosh, I mean, Hartford hasn't lost, 3 or 4 games in a row, really much, if at all, this season. So I gotta imagine that they get it right here, and they do it at home. So I'm going to pick the home teams here. I'm going to go with Hartford in that first game on Saturday, and then Providence in that second game on Sunday.
I'm incredibly torn here. I think Providence is the better team, but having done picks with these two teams, it seems like I have no feel for when they're on it and when they're not. Like the last 3 or 4 weeks, I feel like I've seen Hartford win, and I'm like, all right, Hartford's feeling themselves right now. I'm going to pick Hartford, and then they lose. Same thing with Providence. I feel like I don't have a good rhythm with either team. So I'm just going to default to home ice advantage and say home teams win here. I am incredibly reluctant to do so, but the fact that you did as well at least makes me feel like, well, we're going down together.
Yes, we are.
The model has Providence as a tiny favorite on Saturday on the road. They are a 51.3% favorite on Saturday. They are a 53.5% favorite on Sunday. So the model likes Providence just a bit more than it does Hartford. I don't feel like the model has been very high on Hartford this season. So maybe there's some of that. Again, it ain't me. All I do is program the stuff. It runs the same for every team.
Well, that'll do it for our first weekend preview. Shall we take a brief respite, as it were, Shawnee?
Yeah, we're going to take a break here, and after the break, we are going to get to Syracuse. If you're just here for Hartford and Providence, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you get episodes in a timely fashion. We'll be back on Tuesday to talk about these games, so you may want to check that out. Also, check us out on social media. Links to our social media, popular podcast links, and more can be found on our Linktree page at linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. We're going to pay some bills, run some ads. We'll be right back.
We've covered one deep dive series preview in the Eastern Conference. Now let's bump over to the North Division, and we're going to do something a little differently. I think this may be the first time that we've actually covered a weekend series for a club that has played 3 games in 3 nights, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, all different opponents. I think that's a first for the Calder Farmstead. What do you think?
It's definitely if we've done it before, it's been like once. I usually try and avoid 3-3s. When I scheduled this, clearly did not see that this was the case for Syracuse. But by the time I realized it, I had already done all the research. So here's looking at you.
Here we go. Crunch, 3 games, 3 days, three different teams. Friday, you've got Rochester at Syracuse, 7 p.m. Eastern. Saturday, Utica at Syracuse, 7 p.m. Eastern as well. And Sunday, of course, your classic matinee at 3:05 p.m. Eastern. Syracuse traveling to Wilkes-Barre Scranton to take on the Baby Pens. And, Syracuse continues to be a team that has some strange inconsistency. They're 6th in the division and 5-5 in their last 10 games. They haven't been particularly good this season, but they managed to regularly put up big wins over teams higher in the standings than they are. 5-2 over Laval, 6-2 over Belleville, 6-3 over Rochester. But then you surround those games with 5-1 and 4-1 losses. Sean, do you have any explanation for this strange disparity?
I mean, a fair portion of that has been the roller coaster that is puck luck, more specifically the shooting luck end of puck luck. The team is, by and large, winning the scoring chance battle most nights, but has struggled in some nights to turn those into goals. Case in point, Alex Barré-Boulet, who has a great shot, is shooting 3.9% on the season. And while there are a lot of other talented shooters on the roster that are shooting completely reasonable numbers, they all feel like they're a little bit on the low side. Cole Koepke is at 11.7% for the season. Not terrible, but given his shooting talent, that feels a little low. Anthony Richard is shooting 5% since joining the Crunch. That is too low. Gabriel Fortier is 11.8. Again, that's not terrible, but I know that dude can fling them. Like, I feel like that should be at least 13, 14. Otto Sampi isn't among, the snipers on the team, but him shooting 6.8% on the season is not what it should be. Antoine Morand's missed the last handful of games. And again, not a sniper, but shooting 5.4% on the season. No. And yes, Gabriel Dumont is shooting 20.4%. Yes, that's unsustainable. But if you regress him down 6% to a reasonable 14.4, but bump the rest of the guys up I just mentioned a few points, I think you net gain goals for this Crunch team, especially Alex Barré-Boulet. Seriously, 3.9%. There should be 10% more on that number minimum. And all of that is true without addressing the elephant in the room here. The Crunch are not built for boat races. This is not a team that wants to go out and win 6-5, even though its parent club is kind of like, yeah, that's fine with us. We can do that. Yes, they can score, but what's plagued them all season is reliable goaltending. I still have a lot of belief in the future of Amir Miftahov and Hugo Alnefelt. The steadying force that was supposed to be Max Lagacé this season also hasn't played much because of what looks like injuries as well as time spent in Tampa. But they haven't been reliable, and that's been a problem. You can have all of the offensive talent you want, but if you're walking into the first intermission down 2-0, 3-0, this is still professional hockey, and you're going to lose the vast majority of those games.
It's interesting. I just wrote an article about Spencer Martin, who spent the previous 2 seasons with Syracuse. And there was an interesting timeline there. Of course, you had Miftahov and Alnefelt coming up the pipeline. And what really bumped Spencer Martin out of Syracuse was they signed Max Lagacé on July 28th, 2021. Then they traded Spencer Martin to Vancouver just 3 days later. On the surface level, you would have thought that Max Lagacé would have been an improvement. And when he's healthy, I would say Max Lagacé is an improvement over Spencer Martin, at least, a Spencer Martin that's in the Syracuse, the Tampa Bay system with Syracuse and everything. But I mean, Spencer Martin's doing well in Abbotsford. That's a little sidebar there. But yeah, I mean, the Max Lagacé, with the injury history and 2 rookie goaltenders on ELCs, let's talk a little bit about that. You said that you were still a believer in both Hugo Alnefelt and Amir Miftahov. Which goaltender do you see more out of, and why?
That's a tough one. But in the long haul, I think I'm going to take Hugo Alnefelt here. And while it's kind of close, there's a clear separation in my mind. Both are athletic, but Miftahov is more so than Alnefelt. And Miftahov's superior athleticism allows him to compensate for being on the smaller side as a goaltender. He's able to get out to the top of his crease and beyond, knowing that he can explode and recover ground if necessary. I like his movement a lot too, and I think he does a very good job of controlling that explosive athleticism, so he doesn't overshoot his spot when he's making those big pushes. I like Alnefelt more, though, as a prospect because I think his ceiling is higher. While Miftahov has better athleticism, Alnefelt moves ridiculously well for a guy that's just over average size for a goaltender. His technique is solid, too. He doesn't get rattled often, even for a 20-year-old. His biggest weakness, though, seems to be tracking the play. He's not terrible at it, but he still appears to be adjusting to the different styles in play and rink sizes from the SHL in Sweden, where I am now. That's very fixable, though, and should get better with more reps and playing time. So as long as that works itself out, which isn't a guarantee, but it seems likely to me, I like Alnefeld's future just a bit more. I think he has the higher ceiling.
And I think it was a good move by Tampa Bay to go out and pick up a veteran like Max Lagacé to, if not, come into games as well, help out the development of Alnefelt and Miftahov. It's always nice to have a veteran netminder there to give those guys some pointers.
Oh, and for sure. And I don't think we can look at the numbers between Martin and Max Lagacé this season and say definitively what the right move was here. Goaltending is basically made up. They don't play in the same environment, and the sample sizes for both are not very big. So let's not get carried away here saying that, like, oh my God, Spencer Martin would have never let this happen.
No. And the environment in Abbotsford is a lot different than the defensive environment in Syracuse, if not slightly different. And he's thriving. He's doing well. 10-1-2. I think 0.93 save percentage. He's doing well in that environment. And
despite
whether that's
so many people wishing that he would not do as well.
Right. It's so true. By the way, fun fact, I shared this with Sean and Vancouver people and Syracuse people probably already know this, but Jonah Gadjevich, brother-in-law to Spencer Martin, found that out. Interview. Yeah. Found that out in an interview with Martin this past weekend. But anyway, I digress. Let's go to keys of the weekend. And we're gonna clump Utica and Rochester into Syracuse against Utica and Rochester. We're going to clump the keys together, as it were.
Because they overlap in what I feel like they should be trying to focus on, because while they play different styles, different teams, there are two aspects that they group together on. Number one, against Utica and Rochester, you need to shut down the neutral zone. Both teams will murder you if you let them fly through the neutral zone. They have team speed, and they have guys who have high-end talent on the rush. You need defensemen to stand up at the blue line. Forwards need to create pressure and back check. If you don't do those things and you let, Alexander Holtz or JJ Paterka just come flying through there, good luck. You will need it. Second key for the two of those teams is do not take penalties. Both have deadly power plays. Don't do the crime. You cannot do the time. I've seen so many teams be like, oh, we'll take, some bad slash. No, don't do it. Do not take penalties that are not absolutely necessary. Against Wilkes-Barre Scranton, your first forechecker needs to get pressure. Wilkes-Barre Scranton has maybe two defensemen capable of handling forechecking pressure during dump and retrievals. Number one, P.O. Joseph. Number two, Juuso Riikola. The other four, not so much. They're not very good at it and will make sloppy plays if you put pressure on them. You need to make sure that first forechecker finds home and is getting pressure on those other four defensemen. Or, still do it to Joseph and Riikola, but just be aware it will be less effective. They're a little bit better at processing and have more poise. Whereas, like Will Riley, no.
Okay, so it is time for our picks. And here I am typing in my picks here at the last second, just because it's always, you always got to, for me, it's a little more auditory. Like I always have to hear the pros and cons a little bit more before making my final decision. And I really can't tell you if that benefits me or not, but I'm going to go with the Crunch on Friday over Rochester. I'm going to pick Utica on Saturday and the Crunch on Sunday over Wilkes-Barre Scranton. Sean, what say you?
I'm going to take Pretty much the first two I agree with. I'm taking them over Rochester because it doesn't seem like Rochester can figure out goaltending, which I really would have thought Arundel and Rifle coming back would have been like, oh, we don't play ECHLers anymore. This has to go up. And no, it doesn't. Goaltending is made up. So I'm going to take them over Rochester. I'm going to take Utica. The model does not like Utica because their PDO is sky high and it rates some of their players worse because of previous seasons, which, that's the nature of waiting years of data. But I'm going to take Utica over them. I'm taking Wilkes-Barre Scranton, though, because Wilkes-Barre Scranton will be playing only its second game of the weekend, whereas this is the 3rd and 3 for Syracuse. I think that rest advantage plays a factor and puts its thumb on the scale. The model takes Syracuse in all three, up to varying degrees. Syracuse, a 57.3% favorite on Friday, so big favorite over Rochester, a 51.4% favorite Saturday over Utica, and a 50.5% favorite on Sunday against Wilkes-Barre Scranton. I literally double checked when I saw that. That is the correct output of the model, I am sure, but man, is that surprising.
I mean, especially that, the bump over Utica, I would say. Like, even though it's 1.3%, like it's almost a push at that point. But yeah, and then to be slightly just a little bit favorites over Wilkes-Barre Scranton. I guess it's that home cooking, I guess. I don't know.
it's like I said, the model is not high on Utica. I think some of it is PDO regression because they've been super hot for PDO and the model corrects in the opposite direction for it to drag them back down. So it will always pull Utica down a little bit as they've been on a, puck luck bender. But there are definitely some tweaks that I've seen behind the scene that I'm considering for next season, but I'm going to let ride for right now. And again, it's been picking at like 62% since New Year's. So the model's been doing good.
Getting it dialed in.
Yeah, I'm really tempted to not try and do any more league-wide adjustments on it until the offseason. So we'll see what happens then. But for right now, Dem's the numbers.
Dem's the numbers, and that calibration is coming in better and better at least in 2022. It's 62% is solid.
The Thursday updates, I switched from Tuesday to Thursdays. I think that's definitely helped a lot because I capture a lot more of those like pre-weekend roster moves that have really done some adjust that have really swung things one way. So
that's probably a wiser idea because the AHL with as much as things change at this league level, to get the most accurate roster is imperative for sure. All right, well, we are done previewing at least the deep dives in the Eastern Conference. So we're gonna take a quick breather, and after this brief break, we're gonna head on over to the Western Conference and up to Canada to talk about the Chicago Wolves and the Manitoba Moose. If you're just here for Syracuse and their 3 games in 3 days against 3 different opponents, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you can get episodes in a timely fashion. If you listen to the weekend preview on Friday, we would hope you listen to the weekend recap on Tuesday. So with that all said, check us out on social media. Links to our social media as well as links to our YouTube channel and popular podcast links can be found at our Linktree page, linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. We also do the memes. We try to be in hip and with it and do those memes. And and they're different over every platform. So if you subscribe to all of them, you will catch all of our content. We are going to go pay some bills. I had no idea Sean was flying to Sweden. So that's another airline bill that the podcast is going to have to foot. Thanks, Mr. O'Brien, for that. Anyway, I'm not going to be too bitter about that. Sweden's probably beautiful. We'll be right back. We have covered 2 series from the Eastern Conference, the Atlantic Division and the North Division, like we normally do. We're going to head over to the Western Conference, to the Central Division, and we're going to go north of the border to Manitoba, Winnipeg, Manitoba, that is, where it's not going to be Meese night, but Meese afternoons against the Chicago Wolves. And Saturday and Sunday, 2 p.m. Central Time. That's your weekend series, Chicago Wolves at the Manitoba Moose. And we thought we'd bring a friend on. He is a writer for Full Press Hockey covering the Manitoba Moose, and probably Sean, right up there with you, is a great hockey analytical mind here at the AHL level and beyond. Decided to bring him back on the program, Mr. Jacob Stoller. Jacob, welcome back to the show, bud.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. How have you been?
Other than ruining your guys' show with some Wi-Fi issues, I'm well. I'm doing well.
It was just a half hour with that Winnipeg Wi-Fi. We just had to encourage you to plug in that Ethernet cord and go that route.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the confidence to pull it off. Thanks, guys. Happy to be here.
Hey, you know what? We're here to help. We are here to help. So, all right, my friend. Well, what we're going to do is Sean is going to give his take here on Manitoba, and then Jacob, we're going to have you chime in, either agreeing respectfully or, like Sean said, disrespectfully. He's okay with that too. He's got thick skin, and or disagreeing. So we'll just go ahead and tackle it. So Manitoba, they've managed to stay afloat in the Central Division, aka the Death Division, as we so call it here on the Calder Farmstead, despite just winning one of their last 5 games. Sean, what's been going wrong for the Moose?
I mean, this is a team that's just been picked clean of the majority of the talent they've had at forward, either by injury or by being what looks like the Winnipeg Jets' fourth line by committee approach. It's more of it takes a village to make a fourth line. That seems to be how they play their bottom line there. I mean, we're talking Luke Johnson, CJ Cease, Christian Reichel, Cole Perfetti, Austin Poganski. David Gustafson just came back from injury this week. And while we always knew Cole Perfetti's time in a Moose jersey was going to be limited, the kid's a star. That's basically 2/3 of the Moose top 9 forwards. I like Mikey Asamont and Jeff Malott as much as the next guy. But when Nicholas Jones and Todd Burgess are rounding out your top 6, you're very likely going to have some problems on offense 5-on-5. And while they run a good system in the offensive zone, it's that 2-1-2/2-3 system that's becoming a lot more popular recently. But I mean, this is not shocking. Teams have had a lot of success with it, and it's a copycat league. Once Tampa won back-to-back cups employing kind of a similar thing, Toronto started borrowing it. We saw Belleville use it against Toronto last weekend. Now, apparently, it's just an all-Canadian and Tampa thing. But they run that system, but it's one that takes talent and creativity to execute. It's also a different one than the Moose played at the beginning of the season, thanks to a coaching change you saw as the Jets went on from Paul Maurice, who had a much blander offensive scheme in place, to what Lowry is doing there, running this kind of scheme. What's also really helped keep Manitoba afloat are special teams. Their penalty kill went from being 3rd in the league on New Year's Eve with an 87.1% raw percentage penalty kill. They're now 6th in the league with an 83.9%, which, yes, is a drop, but given how much, of their forwards they've lost, you would expect them to kind of fall off the map a lot more. Their power play has actually improved in percentage, but gone down in ranking. They were 18.9 on New Year's Eve. They are now 19.4% in that span. So those are the kind of the things that seem like they're keeping them afloat in the Death Division, but they definitely have struggled to score. And a lot of that is just the bodies they've had available to play it forward.
Do you guys know what the Moose save percentage is collectively over the last 5 games?
No, but I remember it being a lot higher than I would have thought. I want to say 916.
Try 767.
Ooh,
767
over the last how many?
5 like
games.
The last 5
okay.
games. Sorry. Yeah. So that's where I'm going to start with what I think is going on. The Moose are allowing the second least amount of shots against. They're out shooting their opponents. According to Instat, the scoring chances at even strength are pretty. By the way, sorry, these are all even strength. Out shooting their opponent, scoring chances are about tied. 2.5 expected goals to 2. They're out shooting, out chancing, everything at even strength. They're just a bit snake bit, and they're getting goal lead, like really bad. Now, Arvid Holm has taken about 80% of that 5-game stretch. And yeah, it's been a tough year for him. We could sit here and talk about how he's not getting much action and maybe that's affecting him, but I think we have to call a spade, and that is that Arvid Holm is really struggling at the North American level. Burden has bounced back recently, He's kind of had an up and down kind of year, but he's really got the groove recently. I don't want to, should have written this down, but I'm pretty sure like his last of 20 games or so, the last 5 game stretch, the last quarter, he's got like a 9.3 save percentage, 9.30 or something pretty solid.
I think that's kind of what I was thinking when I gave my answers.
For sure.
Been better.
Overall, it's been better, I guess, but this last 5 games has been really bad. Now, with the similar core group, more or less, actually less personnel, because remember, their back end actually feeds a lot of the offense. They have a lot of shot attempts coming from Kovacevic, Chisholm, Heinola, Gavanka, Jimmy Olivny too. We forget about how effective he is doing that because he's there with a bunch of really talented guys and Simon Lundmark. And actually Nelson Nogier, who's actually one of the best defensemen at getting shots on the net in the last 3 years. Which is funny because like he's rotating in and out. But anyways, the point is I'm trying to make is I think Manitoba is really equipped even without a lot of personnel. So like Pagansky, he's been a Jet for a while now. And also he was kind of ineffective at the AHL level. I mean, it's kind of a wash. Luke Johnson, he's been great when he's been around, but he's had really bad injury luck, which has been, really sad, honestly. And he's a great player, but, hopefully he's get back to the playoffs. Sean mentioned Perfetti, and then, David Gustafson, who I think, and I maybe this seems biased or people, but I think he's one of the best two-way centers in the entire league. I think and I know he is the third best or second now, but at faceoffs. And, Jeff Malott, we're seeing an AHL star being born. I said on your guys' podcast last year, I thought he'd progress. He has not. He's actually improved. We've seen guys like Alex Limoges. Is that how you say his name on San Diego? Limoges. See, I tried to make it sound, it didn't work. Okay, Limoges. So, we've seen guys like him really taper off with the increased quality of competition. Jeff Malott's actually done the opposite. And so and then you mentioned Mikey Easymont. Easymont, Gustafson, Malott, not to mention Cole Meyer, right? So these are your quote-unquote B squad. I think I'd take that most of the time. And as I mentioned before, they started 2022 really good. And they were able to, at even strength, they were playing well. Their special teams was very good, but they were able to muster out wins. I think what you're seeing right now is they're snake bitten as a whole at even strength, and that's a big problem for that. And as I just mentioned, their goaltending has been atrocious. And I think what's kind of happening here with the Moose is they're at this impasse where, they can't buy a save. And the best goaltender they've had all year was Evan Cormier. And it's crazy. But, listen, maybe home bounces back. I'm not sure. But in terms of this stretch, it's concerning, I guess, that they can't get a save from their goalie when they're struggling to put the puck in the net. But, I don't know if I can fault the personnel up front, especially in the back end for this situation.
And I think that's fair. But like I said, the other thing, too, is when you've seen kind of some of the struggles that they've had putting pucks in the net. Like they're a team where, they've been getting bad goaltending, but it's not like they're losing. For sure. Like they're not losing these games 6-5, where it's like, man, if they could only gotten 2 saves, they would have.
You're right. You're totally right.
It's a little bit on both ends, and some of it I understand, especially like when you cited their like scoring chances for and against numbers. Like that tells me they're still playing the right way. But
totally right.
Like it reminds me of Carolina from a couple of years ago, where their analytics profile they were the analytics darlings. They're like, why doesn't this team win more? It's like, because you can shoot from good places and good real estate all you want, but you still need to have finishing talent.
And Christian Reichel.
Yeah.
He's someone that AHL-wide, like he's always got a good expected goal. Same with CJ Cease, but they can't really finish ever. And, of course, like in a vacuum, like having them on a line is great if you pair them with finishers. But like as you just said, if you can't finish, like it's all fluff. And I agree with you, Sean.
Yeah, and I think there's some of that too. Like, and again, I think what Winnipeg does for the Jets for their fourth line, where it's literally a clown car of guys they just kind of pull from a hat every night. Like Vesalainen's playing 8 minutes a night in Winnipeg to do what?
I don't know. And it's weird because Vesalainen, it's funny. Vesalainen is someone where, and I think you guys would know this too, like in the AHL, like he was not very good. And there's this idea amongst the fan base, which, mind you, is disgruntled, but there's this idea that the Jets are just burying him. Maybe not like the free Heinola extent, but like there are people that are like, why aren't they giving Vesalainen a chance? What about that crazy shot? It's like the guy could not hit the net in the AHL, right? So it's like you kind of got to move on from that. So that's what I don't know what Vesalainen's doing, to answer your question. Sorry, I leaped off of that.
Oh, no. But like, there are a bunch of guys too. Like even seeing CJC, Sir Christian Reichel, looking at their minutes up in Winnipeg, and it's like, yeah, okay, but because Winnipeg has one of the heaviest top line rotations. Like their top 6 is playing 21 minutes a night, and that's not super insane, but it's definitely more, especially when it's like usually you see fourth liners getting like 10-ish minutes a night, and their fourth line is like 7, 6.
It used to be 4.
Yeah,
they used to play guys 3 minutes a night.
Yeah, and it's like, why even bother? Like, if you're gonna do that, just go pluck guys from the free agent wire. Go grab Jaromir Jagr and be like, for 5 minutes a night, we will happily put you on our fourth. Like, I don't understand, especially with younger guys. Like Christian Vesalainen's what, 22, 23? Like that dude is not gaining development for 7 minutes a night, 8 minutes a night or less.
Right, and before I'm sure CC's trying to move on, but just one quick thing. That's one thing too, though. It's like development. It's like I think that they kind of hit that impasse with Christian Vesalainen. It's like, are you a player or not? And I think the answer is no. So I don't know if we can really attach the development thing when they give the fact that he's even in the NHL right now is development in itself narrative, in my opinion. I don't think he has earned a spot there. I mean, he's been fine, but like I don't know what he does at all.
And I mean, like, that's fine if they've decided to move on from him. But like, if that's the case, that's still a trade chip that you need to be trying to do something with. Put him in, like, he's never going to show he's worthy of a 3rd round pick from Toronto or whatever, unless you play him, 12, 15 minutes a night. And if you're not going to do that, send him to the Moose. At least there, he'll get minutes to show that he's worth, a 3rd round, 4th round pick in a trade or something like that.
Yeah.
We're going to loop back around to David Gustafsson. Sean mentioned that he recently just returned from injury this week. Words are tough. After being away since mid-December, how big is this return for the Moose, Sean? Jacob will have you chime in after Sean states his piece. But Sean, how big is his return for the Moose, and what does his game look like?
I mean, it's hard to understate what his return means. Pretty easily, he's their most talented forward on the roster right now, or at least the roster that I saw earlier today. It's the AHL roster, moves happen all the time, but I still expect he's the most talented forward on their roster right now. And while you don't need to wear a letter to be a leader, he does in fact wear an A for them, which is not nothing to get back. On the ice, Gustafsson is a detail-oriented player that's driven mostly by his hockey IQ and his ability to process the game at a high speed. In the offensive zone, he's able to find and utilize teammates well. He's solid off the puck in the offensive zone and won't just make a pass and admire it. He's looking to set up teammates, then immediately become an option for a return pass. His shot has really improved over the last season or so to become a lot more dangerous, where I think he can now beat AHL goalies cleanly from mid-range, which is an air that not a lot of guys have to them. Defensively is where his attention to detail shines and stacks well with his physical strength, as he's able to win battles down low, around the net, in addition to breaking up plays with his stick. His biggest drawback, though, has always been his skating and his ability to play through the neutral zone with pace. He sees the game well and processes the game well, which helps offset the fact that he's of slower foot, we'll say. But it's definitely, I think, the biggest hurdle for him to become a clear-cut NHLer is that lack of foot speed. And it's not that he's, Cody Franson speed out there, where it's, like watching a guy try and skate with 4 concrete blocks tied to him. He's faster than that, but it's a different speed when you get to the NHL and you're trying to make fast breaks at the neutral zone. And I think that's something he struggles with, not processing speed-wise, but foot speed-wise.
I think for my money, David Gosselin can play in the NHL like right now. And I think, he proved that at 19, where he's like kind of the rare player where the foundation of his game is his defensive play. And, obviously he's there because like they want to get more out of him. They want to have more touches and all that stuff. But just in terms of like Gustafsson's upside, I have to say, like, I think like, so it's interesting, like with Instats data, I've done a couple things where, and this will be out soon, very soon, but I've run some game score things, and David Gustafsson's in the 92nd percentile and this season. Okay. So that's across the last 3 years. And what's funny though, is with the exception of this Corsi, he's not like elite in any one area. I think it's just a testament to the fact that like every game, he's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. He's a jack of all trades, master of none. And because of that, I think that his skill set can be underrated. His first NHL goal in San Jose, it was this absolute quick flick of the wrist beam. And it was like, oh my God, like no one had any idea he could do that. It was like, this is David Gustin, the guy who can win draws and whatever. And I think from there, like he's really showed that there's a lot more to his game. It's funny, the Moose had like a mic'd up thing with him for practice, and he was like net front. And like, I think he had called like Pagansky, like Pogo passed it to him, Gustin passed it back, goes, that's all I do in the power play. And it was like that is true. He doesn't do much, but he is like, he does have the ability. I think this is something that I even recently have kind of learned or tried to look at, is like guys like that are able to make it at 19, or guys that are able to play pro hockey at such a young age, and from their defensive game, like they're smart enough where like, they can use their skills to foster that offensive game. And I think that's why like David Gustin is a guy where like, you know, eventually I think he's going to be a great third line center. Maybe not great, that's a little hyperbole, but a really good one. And like at the AHL level right now, like this guy, the last couple of games, they're tune-ups. I think you're going to see David Gustin this weekend that's flying on all cylinders. I think him being with Jeff Malott, which I presume what's going to happen, is going to be absolutely deadly for them. I think Chicago's going to have a really hard time because they're really strong on the cycle and they create a plethora of chats with them together. I mean, it's really a matter of like you said, the most talented player on the road. Like, absolutely. But actually, I'll go a step ahead. While I think Heinola is more talented, I think Gustin is the most valuable on that roster. He won MVP last year. I know last year was kind of a exhibition year, but David Gustin is the most valuable player on this team. I don't know if it's even close. And that's not a slight on Cole Perfetti. I think that with Gus, you have him playing power play, you're playing penalty kill, top line minutes up front, and in all situations. It's cliche, but really, like, and Mark Morrison said it best. He was saying, I asked about like what it's like with Gus. Goes, he's etched in my brain. All I think is Gus, and like that's like if you watch a Moose game, Gustafson is out all the time, 20 minutes minimum. And yeah, I can't say enough about the guy. I think he's gonna have a big weekend. I really do. I think he's gonna have a huge weekend for them.
And I agree that I think he could be an NHL player right now, but I see what you're saying. I think there are still steps for him to go. Like, could you plug him in the bottom six more or less anywhere in the NHL and have him be, or like a bottom line and have him be, not look out of place? Sure. But I think that the ceiling for him is higher, but it's more offensive based. It's getting him to be able to do as best he can, you know, moving through the neutral zone with the foot speed he has, or being able to have more offensive elements. Like, while they're very different players overall, I see a lot of what I see from like Alex Turcotte in him, that there is a very good defensive base in there. And what he does in that aspect is something that could put him on an NHL roster. Now it's developing the rest of his game around that. I think Gustafson is probably closer on the offensive aspect than Turcotte is, but they're at least similar-ish in that kind of aspect of their development. Both do different things and play separate games, but like that I think overlays very well. Yeah, and I think the funny thing too is like it was really, you know, unfortunate for Gus that when Perfetti went up, because not like, I'm not trying to say like, you know, staple to him to Perfetti's line, magic happens, but you know, him playing with someone like Perfetti was really good for him. I think, you know, he's playing with a creative player like Perfetti, an offensive guy, and it kind of forces him to do and try different things. And you know, with Gus, it's like, you know, for a time in Winnipeg, people really loved Adam Lowry. And I would say it's about like 2015, or maybe even earlier is kind of the peak of it. But anyways, and I know Winnipeggers listening will know what I'm saying. And I think what Adam Lowry really did to be himself a fan favorite wasn't just like, I'm not talking about a guy that's a big body, stereotypical. No, what Adam Lowry was able to do when he was really in his prime was like tangibly, when watching a game, even as a casual observer, shut down the opposition's best guys. And listen, I think Lowry, he's trailed off a little bit. But I think what David Gustafson is going to be someone that, and this is a really high praise, I'm not saying he's going to be this person. I comparisons get people in trouble, but like, you know, when Philip Deneau is like, after you really dig into it, goes, wow, Philip Deneau, when he's on the ice against that guy, they really suppress chances relative to the other guys. David Gustafson will be that kind of guy. And will he play power play too? Probably not. But I think he'll be a guy where you have an injury in your top six or whatever, he moves up and you don't skip a beat. And I think in a cap world, guys like that are more and more valuable, right? Having guys that are kind of in your middle six utility guy where, you know, and we talk about it, but like we haven't even talked about the fact that he made the NHL because of his penalty killing. His faceoff was great, but because he was a penalty killer, which,
I think it was Micah McCurry, or I can't remember who said it, but about how like we don't really know if guys are going to the penalty kill, if like it just kind of become like this buzzword, but go to the PK. But like Gustafson is like an absolute beast on the PK of the AHL from IC. And I mean, he was good enough to beat the NHL, and they were pretty good when he was there. So I think like with Gustafson, it's like he's going to be one of those guys where he's got a role, but there's so much more there to it. And he'll have those streaks where he goes, wow, David Gustafson is like a 3-game punch. You're like, what the heck? It's like, no, but he's capable of that. And I think the biggest thing for him is going to be this upcoming playoffs. I think you're going to see a huge amount of workload on him, a huge responsibility, and I think a huge performance from him too. I think there's a lot of believers in David Gustin in the Jets organization. Actually, I know it. There are a lot of people that are really high on him, and that is why he's in the AHL. As Sean kind of alluded to, like you could have him in the NHL, but like you're getting less reps, you're getting less touches. So like I don't even tell you guys that, but like really, like it's a positive that he's down there.
It reminds me a lot of Logan O'Connor with the Colorado organization.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, he was killer. He was killer. It still is killer on the penalty kill.
One.
Yeah. And there is a lot of parallels that it just pretty much everything that you were saying. I'm like, this sounds familiar. I feel like I've seen this movie before.
And O'Connor too was one of those guys where like towards the end, like he really like his offensive production, if I was really, really becoming like a strength of his, like big time, in addition to the defensive stuff. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, closing thoughts on the Manitoba Moose, previewing the weekend ahead for them.
Me or Sean?
I'll let you have it first, Jacob. Go ahead.
Okay. Closing thoughts. I think that, well, first of all, I think Chicago's coming pretty hungry. I think it was not fun. They were obviously shorthanded a bit the last time they came in town, but losing that series was definitely not fun. I can imagine. But closing thought. I want to give a little bit of love to Billy Heinola. I think that he gets a lot of that in Winnipeg. Corey, how do you say that shutdown line? How do you pronounce his last name? Snashinger? Or is it Schneider? No, Snashinger. Yeah.
I always thought it was Snashinger, but I actually don't know now that you say it.
Well, sorry to throw it under the bus. He had like the best tweet, I think, like of Jets Twitter. It'd be like, he was like, is Billy Heinola actually real, or is he just an off-screen character? Because like he's become that with the Jets, right? Like he's like a whole other narrative. So the reason I want to give him some love is because, if you look at Billy Heinola's game-by-game log, recently his offense in the AHL has kind of dipped. But it was around December 20th or 10th, to be exact, actually. It was against Belleville, 10th or 11th. And he had the best game of the year, Eric Dubois, as the coach said, where he wasn't really, he didn't produce offense necessarily. He's good puck moving and whatnot, but he was doing a great job of killing plays. And I think that what Billy's done in the AHL, you know what, I credit to the guy because he's handling it really well, a lot better than Sami Niku did. That's a different story. But the point is that Billy Heinola is handling a lot of this really in stride, and I think that he's actually made a really, really good effort and a great deal of progress in being able to kill plays and really use his hockey IQ to add another element to his game. I think right now, if he wasn't concentrating on that and appeasing the staff, he would be putting up whatever it is, points per game, points per whatever crazy clip he was at before the 20th. But I think the guy's really done a good job at reinventing his game. He plays on the penalty kill as well. And for my money, he's one of the top 3 defensemen in this league right now. And I tweeted at you guys, and I thought you guys made a big blip in not having him in your all-star picks. And if you want to rebut that, Sean, you can. But anyways, I think Billy Heinola is, going to be I don't want to say have a good weekend. I think Gus has a good weekend. I think Heinola, those every game as he is, continue to have a 63% Corsi, like it's his day job.
I mean, Heinola was definitely in the mix for those, but we had to. There were other constraints in that moment. I'm not gonna dive into that right now. We have both sides of this side to cover, so we need to get to the Chicago parts. But Jacob, thank you very much for coming on, talking with us, bringing your knowledge of Manitoba and the Moose to our show. We really appreciate it.
And poor Wi-Fi. Thanks, guys.
Hey, you got plugged in. Jacob, real quick before you go, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter, which is JL Stoller, JLSTOLLER. Full press coverage, PHPA on occasion, but full press coverage where you'll be seeing most of my work and some great stuff coming, especially soon. So yeah, check me out there.
Hashtag full press official. There
Dropping
you go.
the big state. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jacob. Appreciate having you. Have a good night, bud. Jacob Stoller, one of the AHL Full Press Hockey members for the Manitoba Moose. All right, let's keep it chugging. We're going to go to Chicago. And, while the Wolves were steadily rolling teams earlier this season, it's kind of a surprise. Chicago is 5-5 in their last 10 games, and they've experienced some eye-opening struggles. Sean, what do you think is the cause of that?
I would say two main things that kind of dovetail together, both a bit on the defensive side of the puck. Number one has been puck management. A lot of risky plays, sloppy mistakes, and moments that are just unnecessary. I mean, personally, I'm a big believer in being aggressive and taking calculated risks, and the Wolves have been taking calculated risks, but man, are they bad at math. Look no further than Cody Glass's breakaway goal from last Tuesday. Max Lajoie makes a turnover on a no-look behind the back pass, alone on the blue line, and very much misreads where Glass is. Glass just basically gets handed the puck, walks right down the center ice for a breakaway, puts it in. The Wolves have had quite a few instances like that where they're just making aggressive plays with the puck in moments that are unnecessary or in ones that are a lot more dangerous than I think they realize. And in order for them to kind of get rid of those parts of their game, they simply just need to take better care of the puck. They need to start acknowledging more of that risk. They need to play with better puck management. Number two is defensemen being way too active in the offensive zone. The Wolves have been bleeding odd man rush chances against in these recent losses, and a big cause of it are defensemen activating off the blue line, which is good. You want your defensemen to come off the blue line, join the cycle. But the problem is they're sticking around below the circles for way too long, and they're getting caught in transition the other way and either stranding their defensive partner, which is bad, or they're having a forward have to play defense for them, which is slightly less bad. I love when defensemen have offensive skills and will leave the blue line, jump into play in the offensive zone. That's a big boost to a team's ability to generate scoring chances because it's very hard to defend. The Wolves have a lot of defensemen on their roster who boast good offensive skill sets and love to activate off the blue line into the cycle or join the rush through the neutral zone. That's one of the reasons they've been such a good team overall, because those moments are hard to defend. However, you have to time those activations well, and you need to make sure that you aren't hanging around low in the zone or above the puck when you're not an active part of the play. Because when you get caught like that, again, it's basically an instant odd man rush against, which is very bad, or it's an even man rush with a forward playing defense, which is slightly less bad, but still bad. Those are happening way too often, and they're getting torched on those rush chances going the other way.
Would it be fair to say that the Wolves have been playing a high risk, high reward kind of hockey, and it's kind of come back to bite them in the ass a little bit?
It seems like they've been leaning more towards that recently. I would say they've still taken risks and done stuff like this throughout the course of the season and from last season even, but it feels like they've tried to press it to a point in which it's no longer a net positive for them. And they need to dial it back a little bit. I'm not saying they shouldn't do it. I'm not saying that they should scrap those plans, but they need to be more aware of the right times to do it instead of trying to make those kind of plays happen. It seems like every offensive possession, or they have defense jumping up to join the rush when it's like, well, this play is a 50-50 at the blue line right now. You can't be trying to jump in because then again, instant odd man rush the other way.
Yeah, you got to pick your spots when it comes to aggressiveness like that for sure. Let's talk about Mr. Bach, Mr. Dominic Bach. I don't know why I'm saying that in an accent that isn't German, but because the man is from Germany. Dominic Bach was recently reassigned from Chicago to the DEL in Germany, in his native Germany. And while he's not obviously a factor, so obviously he's not going to be a factor with the Wolves this weekend. Sean, I'm curious your thoughts on him, and why did he exactly choose to go back to Deutschland?
For me, it boils down to this. There are two Dominic Bachs. There is the one with the puck on his stick. Let's call that one Puck Bach. And then there's the Dominic Bach away from the puck. We'll call that one No Puck Bach. Puck Bach is electric. NHL quality puck skills that can make defenders look stupid. His skating is good, but not great. But he can move at an NHL pace. His shot is an absolute weapon. Great release, solid velocity, can beat NHL goaltenders from mid-range. In short, Puckbach is who scouts fell in love with. Puckbach is why he was a first rounder in 2018. No Puckbach, on the other hand, isn't good at basically anything. He's not actively trying to find soft ice in the offensive zone so teammates can find him, so he can unleash that weapon of a shot. He's not supporting the play. He doesn't play defense. Not a shot blocker. Doesn't really back check. No Puckbach has frustrated the living hell out of a number of coaches. In short, Dominic Bach is like all of the good parts of Patrick Laine dialed to 7.5, plus all of the bad parts of Patrick Laine dialed to 11. If getting healthy scratched, or getting sent down the lineup to be playing in the fourth line wasn't a wake-up call to him, I don't know that getting sent home to Germany will be. It could be. We've seen those moments before where a player gets sent overseas and they have the same problems and they realize the problem is them. Josh Hosang being one of them. But I kind of don't think that's going to be the case here. I hold out hope. I always root for talent, and Dominic Bach has undeniable talent. But there's a lot of his game that needs correcting, and a lot of it feels like it starts with him.
When he's really doing well on the ice, I'd venture to say, like, when he's really cooking on the ice, would it be fair to say he's a Wolfgang Puckbach? You're welcome.
I don't even... This is one of the moments in which I wish I edited the show. So
Delete CC's pun. No puns for CC. In all seriousness, though, let's go to the keys of the weekend. Let's talk about the players that will be on the ice for the Wolves, for Manitoba. Let's start with the Moose, though. Then we'll go to the Wolves. Sean, what are the keys for these teams emerging victorious in one, if not both games?
For Manitoba, I'm going to channel my inner Bill Belichick, which does make me sick because I'm a Bills fan. And yeah, but Bill Belichick is known for taking away another team's best weapon and making them win with secondary things. And that's what Manitoba should do this weekend. They need to be trying to shut down that Podorowski, Mason, whoever line. It's been Josh Levo recently, but it kind of has rotated a little bit here and there throughout the season. I'd tell what I imagine is going to be David Gustafsson and Jonathan Kovacevic, like Gustafsson's line, Kovacevic's pair, out against them at all times. I would tell them, you don't have to win the shifts against them. You just can't lose them. If that means you don't score or don't do anything on offense, so be it. If Jack Drury or Jameson Reese's line is what powers the Wolves to victory, so be it. But I will not let one big line that has been the one big line for them all season walk into our house and beat us. That is the one thing I will not let happen as a coach. That would be one of the keys for Manitoba, is if you can shut them down and force Chicago to win these games with secondary players, I think that's a huge advantage for Manitoba and what they should focus on doing. Second big key for Manitoba this weekend, Chicago's penalty kill, while effective on the season, has looked very leaky lately. They've had a few games where they bled chances to power plays and got bailed out by some good goaltending. This is a moment in which Manitoba should look to take advantage of a Chicago penalty kill, which is not looked as sharp recently. On the Chicago side of things, I mean, we outlined it pretty well in the previous segment. The thing that's killing them is puck management. They need to have better puck management, and their defense needs to be more aware of the risk when jumping into the play on offense. Those are the two things that have been sinking the ship for the Chicago Wolves recently, and if they can get those under control, they should be in for a good weekend.
Time for our picks, and I will go first, per usual. Last time Chicago came to Manitoba in mid to late January, they got swept, and I don't think they want, not egg, but Canadian bacon on their face again. So... The puns keep coming. Once they start coming, they don't stop coming. Anyway, Wolves are going to sweep. Sean's disgusted with me. He needs to pick some teams.
I feel like I need to start stone cold facing these because that's what like my reactions give you power.
They really
The
do.
hate makes you stronger.
Release your hate. Release your anger. The puns will flow through me. Go ahead.
I struggle with this one a lot. Like, I want to pick Manitoba to win one of these games to earn a split here, but I have no idea which one. But I think Chicago takes at least one, and I don't want to try and like dart throw and get it wrong. Like, those are the worst when it's like, I think they'll split this weekend, but I got the split wrong, and that's costing me points. So I'm just going to pick the Wolves to sweep to be on the safe side. Like, in my heart, I think Manitoba wins one, but I don't want to try and guess. I'm just going to take Chicago in both and cover my bases here. The model is a big favorite here for Chicago. It, by big, I mean 55.6%. For a road team, that's a pretty sizable favorite. Again, I believe in Manitoba a lot more than the model does. It's funny that we have disagreements, me and the thing that I program. That's how you could tell that I don't like put my thumb on the scale at all when it comes to the output. I make sure the programming is correct and it runs what it's supposed to. But we have disagreements about teams. One of them is Manitoba. Chicago, 55.6% favorite. All of us are on the Chicago sweep. So congratulations, Manitoba.
And it's probably why, you know, the model's doing better than both of us this year. You don't put the thumb on it. So it's it's removed of human opinion and bias in as much as possible. But anyway, well, I think we are going to talking. Yeah,
we're going to head to break here. After the break, we will go to the Best Coast and talk about the San Diego Gulls and Henderson Silver Knights. If you just hear from Manitoba and Chicago, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, check us out on social media. Links to all of that and more can be found on our Linktree page at linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. We're going to pay some bills, run some ads. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Thanks to Jacob Stoller once again for coming on and plugging in that Ethernet cable, not relying on that Winnipeg Wi-Fi. And yeah, he had a lot of great things to say about the Manitoba and Chicago series. So if you missed that, hit that rewind button. Go check that out. A lot of invaluable insight into the Manitoba Moose, because here on the Calder Farmstead, every night is Moose night, even in the afternoon. All right, moving on to the Pacific Division. This is our last deep dive series, per usual. The norm here on the Calder Farmstead, San Diego versus the Henderson Silver Knights, who say, "Iki, iki, iki, ka-ping." Weekend series in Henderson, Nevada, actually in Las Vegas, Nevada at the Orleans Arena. They haven't opened up that nice Dollar Loan Center quite yet.
That's coming terrible name.
Yeah, it is a terrible name. Looks like a great HL facility, though. So that's coming in April. But at the Orleans Arena, Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific, Saturday matinee at 3 p.m. Pacific as well. Sean, the Henderson special teams are flat out impressive in their efficiency. We talked about last time about how their penalty kill and the at times over aggressive approach. We mentioned that they use at times. Their power play isn't anything to sneeze at either. Special teams wise, what do you see from the Silver Knights on the ice?
Surprisingly, I'm not a huge fan of the way their power play is schemed. Their zone entries are just okay. Well, they have a good mix of plays. They don't execute them superbly and seem to struggle a bit in the place that the Eagles power play does, like you talked about last week, where they gain the blue line, but can't seem to get from gaining the zone to their setup. It's not nearly to the extent that the Eagles struggle with, but it's not the smoothest, and it's definitely caused them some problems. Their flavor of the 1-3-1, I'm not a huge fan of either. They do work the puck inside and have guys on the half wall on their offhand side, so they're open for one-timers. And they use the one-timers from the point to the half wall. But they don't use inside plays as much as I'd like. They don't make nearly enough plays to the bumper, that net front guy, to allow them to shoot directly from there. They don't look across Royal Road as much as I would like. So in that aspect, I think they're leaving goals on the table there. However, this power play works because of the crap load of talent they can put on it. Dorofeev, Miramanov, Lecision, Ronberg, De La Battore, Cotter, Bartucci, Pouliot, Jones, Quine. That's not just a spell check nightmare. That's two stacked units that have good blends of playmakers, snipers, and garbage men at the net front. So despite my dislike of their schemes, they have the talent to make it work more nights than not. And that's not an easy task to overcome and speaks to the depth that Henderson has on that roster right now. And that depth makes them scary 5-on-5 too. When you can just roll lines like that, you're going to be a hard team to defend. And that's what they've been pretty much since the inception.
You know, you mentioned Pavel Dorofeyev. He has made some strides this season, that's for sure. Last year, he put up 9 goals, 4 assists for 13 total points in 24 games, and the model had him in the 75th percentile as a second-line forward grade. So far this season, he's scored 18 goals, 16 assists, 34 total points in 41 games. The model pretty accurately has him in the 90th percentile as a first-line graded forward. Those are the numbers, Sean. What does the eye test say?
God, he's been so much fun to watch this year.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Not that he wasn't last season, but you can tell he believes in himself more this year. I mean, don't get me wrong. A Russian kid coming to America to live full-time for the first time in his life, and he lands in Las Vegas. If there's a bigger culture shock than that one, I don't know what it would be. And that's not to say he wandered down the strip too many times or had the bright lights be too much for him. But the game in North America is played in a very different manner than it is in the KHL and the VHL where he was before. And still, you saw his talent bleed through while he was acclimating to the North American game. This year, it's not bleeding through. It's kicking doors open, and he's having a ball with it. Dorofeyev has the unique ability to take chances and be creative while also being savvy enough to not throw away pucks. He won't resort to safe dump-ins or standard rim arounds when he doesn't have to. And he's gained the swagger to not just recognize those moments, but to run with them. It also helps that the skill set that was already there was quite good. Solid puck skills, deceptive shooter that is a great release. His skating is just a pinch above average for the NHL level, but he doesn't always play with pace, if that makes sense. He seems to still have kind of that KHL slower paced mentality than the North American game, but he's slowly starting to realize that he can actually skate pretty well. He also isn't happy being pushed to the perimeter and will drive inside despite having a frame on the smaller side, but he's adding size. From my math from last season to this season, judging solely on the AHL.com reported weights, he's put on about 11 pounds. Again, that's what is reported on AHL.com. Take that with a big grain of salt, as you should. Still, his defensive effort isn't one that's going to land him in trouble, and that's good enough for me. Overall, he checks a lot of boxes and then creates new boxes and checks those as well. I am very high on Pavel Dorofeyev and am very much looking forward to watching this series this weekend with him in it.
A Russian prospect that actually stays in Vegas and gains confidence as he plays through instead of, taking a Shipachev across the Atlantic Ocean back to Russia there. Oh, come on.
C-.
C-, CC-. All right, let's go to San Diego before I just completely get Sean all sorts of weirded out and wants, make him quit the episode before we're done recording. Sean, how much of San Diego's rolling PDO graph would you say explains the season that they have? I think we're going to need a visual aid for this one because
we're going to get a visual aid here.
Yes.
Explains may be too strong a word, but it definitely tracks what we've seen from San Diego. So for those of you on the audible or audio version of of the podcast, I'm going to do my best to explain what this graph looks like, but you should probably jump over to YouTube at some point after we're done or wherever. Like if you're in traffic, don't pull over to the side. It's not that serious, but let's jump into the share screen here so we can get a visual of what this looks like.
Absolutely.
So this is the estimated PDO graph for the season. This is where San Diego is. Yes, I realize that is not currently San Diego's logo. I'm accountable to no one. But if you're unfamiliar with PDO is a representation of puck luck. And the goal is to have a PDO score of right around 100. That's something that has been found to be a sustainable amount of puck luck. that, and if you try and, get too far above or beyond 100 by like a point or two, you're getting good or bad puck luck and regression is coming for you. Now you can cheat that a little bit if you're super talented as a team. Like up here, we have Ontario and Utica, who are, 3 points above 100, but they're super talented and they've gotten lucky. So there's a little bit of a mix in that. But San Diego is right here on the season long one at 100.1. And this is estimated because PDO is best measured 5-on-5. The AHL doesn't give me 5-on-5 data, so I do my best to correct for it. Their all situations PDO, which measures, shots and saves at all scenarios, is still 99.851. Still well within the bounds of what we're looking for from a puck luck perspective for something that is sustainable. Here's where it gets weird. So this is their rolling estimated PDO graph, which instead of the year-long graph, basically measures it every 2 weeks continuously. So 2 weeks, so week 1 and week 2 are in there. And then when week 3 happens, week 1 goes away and it's just weeks 2 and 3 and it rolls. Hope that makes sense. This is San Diego.
Holy crow.
And if those of you who can't see it, it basically just looks like a Richter scale during an earthquake. It's up, down, up, down, up, down.
It's a guy lying his face off on a polygraph, although those aren't very
polygraphs aren't real. They don't measure anything. But this is insane. And this looks like no one else's graph over the season. Like you can see kind of in the background, there are other teams that have peaks and valleys that look like this, but none that are just up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Like here is Rockford's. Here is San Jose's.
Ugh.
Here is Providence, a little bit smaller peaks. Let's see who else has some crazy ones. Here is Cleveland. But like no one's looks this just wild. And when you think about it, that's what San Diego has been this season. There are times where this team has looked like contenders. They've looked like a good team for short stretches. Early January, beat Stockton 4-1, took Ontario to overtime, split a weekend series with Abbotsford, beat San Jose 4-2, beat Stockton again 3-2. Then there are stretches that make you scratch your head. Immediately following those, good, we look like contenders games, swept by Abbotsford, lose 5-3 to Colorado, swept by Iowa, lose 5-3 to Colorado, split with Tucson. This mirrors too what we've seen from the team on the ice. When they're on, and it looks like they can at least compete with anyone. But man, when they're off, do they look like there's concrete in their gloves and skates and maybe helmets. And as an aside here, this isn't necessarily unfamiliar territory for a Joel Bouchard coached AHL team. His first season in Laval in 18-19, the Rocket were 30-46. They finished 26th in the league and 7th in the division. In no uncertain terms, they were bad. It seemed like it took a season for Bouchard to get the right mix of veterans, get guys in the right frame of mind, have his message find home. Laval was finding its stride late in 1920 when the COVID pause canceled the rest of the season, but they were in contention for a playoff spot that year. The 2021 Rocket were world beaters that just dummied teams. Now, is that the track San Diego is on? I obviously cannot say for sure. This Gulls team, though, has talent and is still likely to make the playoffs in this new AHL cash grab format. And in that instance, they could make some noise because this is still a team that in small windows has looked like they can contend with anyone and has a lot of talent. In short, 3-game series, that does make them dangerous. Am I saying, man, I don't want to play San Diego in the playoffs should that come? No, but I'm saying do not quit on this team. There are still enough here that makes me believe that they are more than what has happened or more than some of the nights in which you shake your head and facepalm. I understand it. I've seen it too. But there are good bones on this team. There is good talent. Some of it is just dialing it in and executing.
you mentioned, Joel Bouchard, first year coming from Laval to coach in San Diego. Kevin Dineen, former San Diego coach, just having his players buy in Utica, and the results are there. The fruit is there. You can see it. They're at the top. Yeah, but
I will never, ever, for the life of me, understand that move in the offseason. Like, Kevin Dineen is a very good coach. I think Joel Bouchard is a very good coach, but they're very different coaches. And to see what Kevin Dineen did in San Diego and be like, yeah, but we're kicking you to the curb for a completely different but still very good coach is just such a weird move. Like, there definitely were things that happened behind the scenes there that we're never going to learn about. Like, maybe one day, we'll get Bob Murray and Kevin Dineen after 4 shots of bourbon to talk about it. But up until that point, no chance. Anyway, let's talk about some players here.
Yeah. After putting in 15 points in his first 11 games with the goals this season, Jacob Perreault has 4 points in his last 22 games. A little bit of a slump. A lot of bit of a slump, actually. What on earth is going on with Jacob Perreault, Sean?
Well, for starters, the number one thing, he's not shooting. First 11 games of the season, he averaged 3.6 shots on goal per game. Shot 17.5% on those shots. In the 22 games since then, he's averaged 1.73 shots on goal per game, shooting 2.6%. 10 of those 22, he has 0 shots on goal. I'm not a big fan of stating the obvious, but if you're one of the best shooters outside of the NHL, a category that Perreault fits into, and you're not getting shots on the net, you're not going to produce. It's not that more straightforward than that. Is at least one of a multifaceted problem here. And as far as I can tell, those aren't ice time issues of why he's not getting to shoot more because he's just not on the ice more. As far as I can tell, he is still getting top 6 minutes. He hasn't been dropped to the 4th line. He's had a couple of games where he's been on 3rd lines, but there aren't permanent stays. He's still getting power play time. So as far as I can tell, his time on ice is not drastically different than where it was at the beginning of the season. A lot of the rest of where this seems like he's falling off is off puck. Most of his goals he scored earlier in the season were in high danger areas where he was finding rebounds or finding soft ice inside. Or he was on the power play and putting himself in good spots for Royal Road one-timers. He's not doing that now. He's not getting to the inside. He's not finding soft ice. When he has the puck, he's getting pushed to the perimeter and then muscled off of it. And that's been a criticism of his since he was drafted. He's on the smaller side. He's not an explosive skater, isn't overly physical or shown that he's going to be able to play through contact with his size and strength. Perreault is also a player that is incredibly dangerous on odd man rushes. That's where he thrived in juniors. The Gulls under Joel Bouchard have not been a team that generates a lot of odd man rushes. They're not looking to counterattack often. So you're taking away that, high value opportunity from him just because they're a team that simply doesn't do it a lot. That hurts his game a fair bit as well. In general, it comes down to him regressing from some early season progress where he was getting inside, he was making more plays. Now he's not. He's also not shooting, and that lack of rush chances for him to feast on all are kind of culminating together to be what we see right now. There's still talent there, and there's talent to be mined and progress to be made, but he's going to need to dig, himself out of these holes a little bit of his own accord. I would like to see San Diego try and manufacture some more puck touches for him, get him more involved in breakout plays, find him the puck on his stick, because nothing will bring your confidence up like just executing basic plays well. That's something he hasn't gotten to do as much because he's not getting the puck on his stick as much as he was in the beginning of the season. And I don't think that's necessarily his fault or his line mate's fault or whatever. It's just kind of something that he's pulled himself out of the flow of play in those moments. And I think he needs to find ways to insert himself back in, or the coaching staff needs to find ways to put him back in those.
Yeah. If it doesn't culminate in more shots on goal, then what are you doing? What are you doing, San Diego? All right. Well, it's time for the keys of the weekend. We're going to talk what it will take for the Henderson Silver Knights and then the San Diego Gulls to emerge victorious with one or perhaps two games this weekend?
For Henderson, this is a special teams advantage that has to have the Silver Knights licking their chops. The goals special teams have been below average in both power play and penalty kill. The Knights are above average in both. This should be an area the Knights win and win decisively. No matter how you spin it, though, right now, Dylan Ferguson and Jiri Patera are not Logan Thompson. So the focus should be on keeping their environment clean. Yes, it seems like Henderson has done that and they've had some mixed results, but it's really all you can do. Goaltending is voodoo, but keeping shots to the outside, box out traffic, give your guys the best chance to do the best voodoo they can. That's what Henderson should focus on for this weekend. Special teams play, making sure you're giving your goaltenders the best chance they have. On the San Diego side, execute, execute, execute. When things are going bad for the goals, they look sloppy. When things are going well, passes are crisp, guys are where they were supposed to be. Players should focus on playing their individual game and trust the rest of their teammates to do the same, but they need to make sure at an individual level they are doing the right things. Second big key to for the goals this weekend, if I am Joel Bouchard, first, I contact my agent about being a Just for Men spokesperson. Second, I bargain with my team. I tell them we're traveling to Henderson Friday morning. I'm locking all of your asses in the hotel Friday night and Saturday morning. If we get 3 out of 4 points this weekend, you can spend Saturday afternoon and all day Sunday on the strip doing whatever the hell you want. We'll leave Sunday night or Monday morning. Less than 3 points, we leave first thing Saturday afternoon after the game. That is the deal I will make with my team.
Wow. I like that. I don't think I've heard that kind of bargaining chip, as it were, as a key to the weekend, but whatever works.
Hey, like, keep them away from Vegas, keep them away from the fun parts of it while we're there. But if you guys play well, we get 3 out of 4 points this weekend. I will let you run wild for a day and a half. All right. But you need to do it. That is the bargain.
Get her done. Get her done. Let's get to our picks. I say fortune favors the bold. And you know what? What the hell? San Diego on Friday. Henderson does bounce back on Saturday, but I'm going to say San Diego gets those 3 or 4 points.
As much as I love Ron Burgundy, I'm going to have to take Henderson's side here. I want to believe San Diego is like the bastard Milwaukee of the Pacific Division. I want to believe, but there's still stuff holding me back. I ended up coming back to Milwaukee. San Diego, you're going to have to earn my trust again. I'm going to take Henderson here. The model, on the other hand, in a strange, I swear to God, I didn't do anything weird programming it this weekend because we've gotten some surprising results from the model. The model has San Diego as a 53.4% favorite. The model loves San Diego right now. All I can say is everything is functioning correctly. I double checked. I promised nothing weird happened.
Okay.
Yeah, but like, this is what the third time in this preview episode where it's like, and the model is on its own side here.
And yet, as you said, 64% since the beginning of 2022.
Part of me is starting to think like there was one weekend where it was like a 39 or a 40% that was not good.
Yeah.
And it was just, that was bad luck. Mm-hmm. I'm starting to wonder if this is going to be that, or if we're all going to look real dumb and Rise of the Machines is happening on Tuesday. Tune in and find out.
Tune in and find out. Yes.
But that is our coverage of the Pacific Division. We're going to take a break. After the break, we will get to the speed round. We don't even need to go to Vegas. We're going to do it right here. So if you're just here for San Diego and Henderson, thank you for stopping by. It's a Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas joke. Don't make those faces at me. You've seen that movie. Thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from, so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Check us out on social media. Links to our social media, as well as links to all the places you can listen to or view us. Plus a couple more fun things in there can be found on our Linktree page at linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. We're going to pay some bills, run some ads. We'll be right back to pick every other game for the rest of this weekend. Stay tuned.
All right, we're done with our deep dives in our weekend preview here. And, well, you know what that means. We got to limber up a little bit and see if we can get this done in a quick fashion, because it is time, once again, for the speed round. Stockton and Abbotsford Friday and Saturday. Split. Abbey on Friday, Stockton on Sunday.
I'm going to take Stockton in both here.
Bakersfield at Grand Rapids Friday and Saturday. Grand Rapids split when Ontario came to town. I'm going to pick Baco on Friday, Grand Rapids on Saturday.
Such a weird series. I'm going to go with you on that one, but it's very close.
Belleville at Laval Friday and Saturday. Split. Vicens on Friday, Laval on Saturday.
I'm going to go with you again. I was thinking split myself, so let's just tie my wagon to you.
Okay, Lehigh Valley at Cleveland Friday and Saturday. Half and half again. Cleveland on Friday, Lehigh Valley on Saturday.
Adam Clendenning revenge game. Phantoms in both.
Colorado at Milwaukee Saturday and Sunday. Colorado on Saturday, Milwaukee on Sunday.
I bought in. Ads in both.
Ooh, Hershey and Utica. Friday at Utica, Sunday at Hershey. My first sweep prediction, Comets.
Hershey's been bad recently. Goaltending's a problem. Comets.
Ontario at Tucson Saturday and Sunday. Back to Jekyll and Hyde. Ontario on Saturday, Tucson on Sunday.
Ontario has not looked good recently, but I believe in Tucson less. Ontario in both.
Rochester and Toronto. Saturday at Rochester, Sunday at Toronto. Home cooking. Amherst on Saturday, Marlies on Sunday.
Hosang returns. Give me the Marlies.
Texas at Rockford Saturday and Sunday. Stars are in one currently. I'm going to say Rockford sweep.
Ice Hogs, Ice Hogs, Ice Hogs.
Friday, we got Charlotte at Providence. I'm going to say P Bruins.
Not so fast. Checkers.
Hartford at Springfield. I'm going to say T-Birds.
Caveat, if the Perunovic Painter is still there, T-Birds. Otherwise, I go Wolfpack.
Okay. Rockford at Iowa. I'm going to say the Wild take one at home.
Yeah, Wild.
Saturday, Wilkes-Barre Scranton at Bridgeport. Baby Pens with the dub.
I don't believe in the Sound Tigers. I don't believe in the Penguins. Just a teeny bit less Penguins.
Charlotte at Springfield. Checkers take one against the Thunderbirds. That's my pick.
T-Birds regardless of Painter tickets.
Last one, Sunday, Charlotte at Bridgeport. I've got no faith in the Baby Isles. Charlotte.
Charlotte. No question.
2 minutes and 14 seconds.
Boom!
Ho!
That's what happens when we do this super late at night.
Yes, it is. Sean just wants to get it done and over with. He set the goal at 2:30. We came in at 2:14. That is a new PR for the Calder Farmstead. And that is it for the show. Thank you for watching and or listening. The Calder Farmstead is part of the Full Press Radio Network. You can listen to this and several other great hockey, sports, and pro wrestling programs at fullpresscoverage.com. Just click on the podcast drop-down menu in the top right portion of the website. That's the big list populating. And enjoy. And as always, thank you so much. With all that quality programming out there, you choose to be here on the Calder Farmstead AHL podcast.
And if you guys are enjoying the Calder Farmstead, please make sure you subscribe so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or Amazon, please rate and review the podcast. Or if you're watching on YouTube, like the video, comment what you thought of the episode. Doing so helps others find the show, and your reviews help us improve it. You can also follow the show on social media at Calder Farmstead on Twitter, at the Calder Farmstead on Instagram and Facebook. Links to all of that and more can be found on our Linktree page, which is linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. Big thanks to Adrian Drake, who made our theme music. You can find him on social media at AD_dysfunction. That's AD_DYSFUNCTION. So you can make music for you too. Cece, where can people find you?
My name is CC Hockley. You can find me representing Full Press Hockey on Twitter at FPC_AHL. And that's where you get all your AHL news from. Do my best to keep track of all that. And I'm at my personal Twitter account at CCHawk. That's SEESEEHAWK. Mainly music tweets. Put out a Wordle tweet every now and again. However, music, pop culture, films. Hopefully, if it keeps me interested, it's not going to be bullshit for you. You can check out my writing on the Full Press Coverage Network at fullpresshockey.com. My latest article about Spencer Martin, Abbotsford goaltender, returning to Loveland, Colorado, where he played the 18-19 season. And as he said, the coaches and management did not reach out to him. So he wanted to say hello on the ice. 43 saves on 44 shots later. Got the dub. 2-1 victory for Spencer Martin. Anyway, that's where you can find me. Sean, enough about yours truly. Where can the people find you?
I'm Sean O'Brien. You can find me on Twitter at Sean O'Brien81. That's SeanObrien81. I'm also on Instagram at Sean O'Brien_81. Find my stats work, all the model stuff that we talked about, that thing we showed you at the end there in San Diego, that lives there on my Tableau page at bit.ly/data-dump-and-chase, all lowercase, all one word. CC is real late. Take us home.
We have a bad habit of doing that. That'll do it for episode number 86 of the Calder Farmstead AHL podcast. For Sean O'Brien, I'm CC Hockley, and we wish you well. And as always, keep your stick on the ice.